Hi, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. It's Emma. Who else is it gonna be? I am pretty excited for today's video because I'm bringing to you a sort of specific bookshelf tour. Today I'm going to be taking you guys along on my translated fiction collection. I guess we can just go through my bookshelves. I'll pull them out, show them to you, tell you a little synopsis, if I read them, if I like them, and basically my goal is just to give some recommendations. And I know that a lot of people have been asking to see like a collection and to get some ideas and inspiration for translated fiction. So yes, what is translated fiction? Translated fiction is fiction that's been translated. So for me, translated fiction is anything that's translated into English, which was not originally written in English, since English is my first language. Of course, for everyone, translated fiction is just completely different. I can't actually tell where I'm supposed to put these sleeves. Is that good? So my translated fiction collection, all the ones I'm about to show you, I'm pretty sure 99% of them are in English. But if I do have any copies of other translated works that are translated from a language into another language that isn't English, I will of course show you those as well. I think I'm just going to take you along chronologically, at least, through the classics, since most of my bookshelf, or a lot of it, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4.5 shelves of classics, and then the bottom 2 shelves of my bookshelf are ancient classics, Greece, Rome, Egypt. I might not go into those today because that would be like the whole shelf, but regardless, I think we're just gonna go through it chronologically because that's how my bookshelves are arranged, at least for the classics. So let's start. The first 3 books on my shelf are all translated, so let's do it. And I of course will shout out and tell you guys who all the translators are because that is a hard job. If you are a translator, thank you so much. Okay, so the very first one I have here is Beowulf. This one is translated by Michael Alexander, but I've actually read 2 different translations of Beowulf. The other one by Seamus Heaney, which was kind of a little bit better. I read this a couple times now. I first read this for a course I took in uni for British literature. I wrote a paper on Beowulf, and yeah, I really liked it. This is translated from Old English, and if you've never heard of Beowulf, he's this dude. And he gets up to a lot of things. He visits some people. He visits this man called Hrothgar. There's this terrifying monster, demon, spirit, beast thing that is rampaging through Hrothgar's halls, and so Beowulf comes over as a warrior and says that he will take care of Grendel for Hrothgar. There's also, of course, a different plotline with the dragon, and it's just really good fun, honestly. And I love Grendel. I think he's such an interesting character, so I would highly recommend Beowulf if you haven't checked it out because I just think it's so fun. Speaking of very ancient texts, I also have The Quest of the Holy Grail here. This one is translated by P.M. Matarasso. This is of course, talking about the world of King Arthur. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this was translated from Old French. I have not yet read this. This is one of the oldest books on my bookshelf, so I really need to get to this. But as you can imagine, we follow King Arthur, the Round Table, we have his different knights, we have the quest for the Holy Grail, and there's just so much religious imagery and symbolism and meaning infused in here as well, combined with, of course, very old myth. So that's just super fun. This next one is absolutely gorgeous, and this is Dante's Inferno, which is just beautiful. This is the new verse translation by Robert Pinsky, and this is the bilingual edition. It comes with the old Italian on one side and then the new English on the other side. This one is just gorgeous because it is also illustrated. Oh, it's so nice. Yeah, I can't believe I've never read this either. I found this actually at a thrift store, which was just incredible, because this is like brand new and it's just gorgeous. All right, this one I've also read. I read this a while ago. This is The Prince by Machiavelli. This one is translated by Anne Rooney, and yeah, I read this a while ago. This is also just really good fun. This one was written as an instructional manual. The insights of the prince range across a variety of subjects, from politics, military, how you should live your life, relationships, a lot of like subterfuge and corruption, and how you should go about kind of being a political figure, all of the backstabbing and the lying and everything that goes into that. So this was just, yeah, really fun, and I absolutely love these editions as well. This is the Arcturus edition, so that is The Prince. All right, then we have Candide by Voltaire. I almost said Voltaire by Candide. Candide, I also read this. I read this in 2020. Pretty fun, translated from the French by John Butt. It is with 2 T's as well. Anyway, stop being a child. So Candide is a little piece by Voltaire, philosophical satire about rebelling against the notion that everything is for the best because we live in the best of all possible worlds, and it doesn't matter how much catastrophe and how many crazy things go wrong, everything's gonna work out and everything happens for a reason. So we follow this man named Candide, and literally every single awful thing you could ever imagine happening to someone ever in their lives happens to him, but his philosopher friend just keeps trying to make him be optimistic and see the positive side and say, oh, it's just gonna work out. So this was super interesting, and it's definitely just a nice short read by Voltaire, so I would recommend as well. All right, so that is everything off this first shelf. Swinging around to this one, this is my Phantom of the Opera collection. I definitely am not gonna go into all of these and all the different translators, but as you can imagine, these are all translated from French. These are all copies of Phantom of the Opera and one graphic novel, so yeah, I have a very big collection of those as well. All right, so moving on to this shelf. I don't think there are that many translated pieces on here, but let's give it a shot. All right, so this one we have The Lady of the Camellias by Alexandre Dumas fils. This one is translated from the French by Liesl Schillinger. Am I saying that right? I have yet to read this one, but this one is just an absolutely gorgeous copy. Yeah, so this one is about this girl named Marguerite, who's known as the Lady of the Camellias because she always has one of those flowers about her, and she's never fallen in love until she meets this guy, and yeah. Henry James called it one of the greatest love stories of the world, so thanks, Henry. Next, we have a collection of fairy tales, The Turnip Princess and Other Newly Discovered Fairy Tales. This one is translated by Maria Tartar. I believe this one is translated from the German, and it's about a whole bunch of fairy tales that were actually discovered not that long ago in like a box full of manuscripts, I believe in Germany. They're violent, dark, and full of action, and they just provide, I think, many different perspectives from like stuff from the Brothers Grimm or Hans Christian Andersen and stuff like that. So that is The Turnip Princess. All right, then we have a couple of Childhood, Boyhood, Youth by Leo Tolstoy, which is of course translated from the Russian. This one is translated by Judson Rosengrant. If you're part of the Dickens versus Tolstoy book club, hi, how are you doing? But we read this in January as our first work for Tolstoy, because this is the first novel that Tolstoy ever wrote, and it was just such a good time. As you can see, I annotated this copy, and it was just really, really good fun. This is a semi-autobiographical novel following this young boy named Nikolenka, and he's just growing up. He moves back and forth from like the countryside, staying at his family's house, and he moves to Moscow and stuff like that, and it's just really nice watching him grow up. It deals a lot with obviously growing up, relationships, social commentary and stuff like that. So next we have Collected Poems by Arthur Rimbaud. This one is translated by Oliver Bernard from the French. I haven't read this, but actually this one comes with like it's principally in French, and then at the bottom they have like the little English translation, so that'll be good because this will let me practice my French a bit more. And yeah, what I have read from this collection, like I've dipped in and out, but I by no means covered the whole thing. I really like it, and I would really love to read the rest of it. So that is Rimbaud. All right, we have Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert. This is translated from French by, this one actually does not say who translated this. These Arcturus are very not good at telling us who did these. I think because these Arcturus ones, they're usually on sale, so they're typically like older translations of it, like quite old. But anyway, I did read this a few years ago, wasn't super in love with it. We follow Madame Bovary, who gets obsessed with aesthetics and very rich materials, textiles, consumerism, everything like that. And we follow like the tragedy that accompanies her via this obsession with the material world. We're really hitting a lot of French literature. We have The Flowers of Evil by Baudelaire. I read this as well a few years ago. I love this. I love this so much. This is really nice because it's a bilingual edition again. This one is translated by James McGowan. And yeah, I just really love this. A lot of grotesque, a lot of decadence, a lot of just aestheticism, art for art's sake. Okay, we have a couple Russian translations now. First up, we have Fathers and Sons. This one is translated by Peter Carson, and I have not yet read this one, although it's a very battered, thrifted copy. Of course, we also have Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. I also read this in 2020, and I liked it, but I definitely want to read it again. I think it's a book I would love to read copious times. This one is translated by Sydney Monas. In Crime and Punishment, we follow this very poor student named Raskolnikov, and he's meditating on crime and punishment, who can commit crime, what should be allowed, what shouldn't be allowed. Super interesting. It put me in one of the worst moods of my life, but yeah, just super impressive. All right, so moving on once again to this shelf, we have quite a number of books. We move into quite the heavy Russian period. We have The Idiot, again by Dostoevsky. This one's translated by David Macduff. I haven't read this one, but I'm really looking forward to it, so that's The Idiot. We have War and Peace by Tolstoy. I don't know if I'll have started this by the time you see this, but I'm going to be reading this in April and May for the Dickens versus Tolstoy book club once again. This is our book for those 2 months, and just so excited. I believe this is the translation that earned Tolstoy's stamp of approval, because this is translated by Louise and Elmer Maude, the very famous translators, the couple, and yeah. So excited about this, just so excited about this brick. So that's War and Peace. We have Anna Karenina by Tolstoy. This is also translated by Louise and Elmer Maude, so yeah. I read this in 2019, absolutely loved it. Of course, we're going to be reading it again actually in 2021 for the book club as well. This one also just smells so good. We have The Posthumous Memoirs of Bras Cubas by Michel Roger-Assis. This one I'm very much looking forward to. This one is translated by Flora Thompson DeVoe, so it's just gonna be amazing. Oh my goodness. This one, we follow the ghost of a decadent and disagreeable aristocrat, and he decides to write his memoir. He dedicates it to the worms that are like gnawing at his corpse in the ground, and it's just gonna be so surreal and incredible. So that is The Posthumous Memoirs. Speaking of Assis, we also have The Alienist and Other Stories of 19th Century Brazil. This one is translated by John Charles Chastain. So I think I'm going to start with this one, just go in with like his short stories and stuff, but that's that. We have Against Nature by Huysmans. This one is the new translation by Margaret Malden, and haven't read this. This one is this is the book that they read actually, that Dorian reads, in the picture of Dorian Gray. That serves as a little bit of momentum for his corruption, so should be super interesting. We have Touch Me Not, the classic from the Philippines. This one is translated by Harold Augenbraum. Am I saying that right? Have not read this either, but so looking forward to it. So looking forward to it. I've actually read a little bit of it, but didn't make it all the way through yet, so definitely gonna come back to this. I have The Broken Wings here, which was first published in Arabic in 1912, but this one as well doesn't list a translator, but I can tell you it's just superb. I absolutely loved it. One of my favorite books of last year. We have Kafka's Metamorphosis and Other Stories. I haven't read this one yet, but I'm really looking forward to it. So I think I might start with The Trial, and yeah, we shall see. Let me know what your thoughts are on this one. Okay, so on this shelf right here, if we move our little Frankenstein man, have the selected poems of Pablo Neruda translated by Ben Billet, and then this whole stack, guys, you'll know is my Rilke collection at the minute. It's very disorganized because I read from these books like so frequently. I just finished rereading again Letters to a Young Poet by Rilke. So of course these all have so many translators. This one is translated by Reginald Snell, and I just have so many, of course, very famous translators. We have Anita Barrows and Joanna Macy, who did his Book of Hours. I have 2 different copies. They also did, I think I might have another one. Oh, and of course we have Edward Snow, who does so many of these. This is the beautiful copies from Edward Snow. He's like Rilke's, I think, probably most celebrated translator, but yeah, I read from these all the time. I really need to clean this up because it's a mess, but yeah. And then the other copy we have in here that's translated fiction is Steppenwolf by Hermann Hesse. I love this cover. This one I believe is translated by Joseph Malek, and it's translated from the German. So very much looking forward to reading this. So moving on to this shelf now, let's see what we have here. We have The Invention of Moral by Casares, also with a prologue by Borges. This one is translated by Suzanne Jill Levine, so looking forward to reading this one. We have a couple of the gorgeous vintage, I I believe, yeah, vintage editions. This one is Thirst for Love by Yukio Mishima, and this one is translated by Alfred H. Marks. This is about a woman named Etsuko, and her husband dies, so she has to move into her father-in-law's house, and it's about the tragedy there. I believe she falls in love with one of the servants, and yeah. We have Bestiary Selected Stories by Cortázar. This one is translated from the Spanish by a whole bunch of people, which is really cool. So this is a whole bunch of Cortázar's short stories, and I'm very much looking forward to them because they sound so crazy, so interesting. So that is that one. Alright, next up we have Snow Country by Yasunari Kawabata. This is translated from the Japanese, and I love this. It's one of my favorite books of the year so far. This one is translated by Edward G. Seidensticker, so that's cool. Yeah, I just absolutely adored this book so much. I would highly recommend. Alright, moving over here, we also have some more Cortázar. We have Hopscotch, which I've heard, I'm just gonna absolutely love this book, I think. I haven't read it yet, but this one's translated from the Spanish by Gregory Obasa, so yeah, that is Hopscotch. We have some more Mishima with The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea. This one's translated by John Nathan. Up here we have The House of the Spirits by Isabel Allende. This one is translated from the Spanish by Magda Bogen. We have the gorgeous copy of The Master and Margarita by Bulgakov. This one is a newly revised translation by Richard Pevere and Larissa Vorokonski.
We're really trying with these names.
We have my favorite book, 100 Years of Solitude by Marquez. This one's translated from the Spanish by also Gregory Rabassa.
He's doing great work.
And then the last few hidden in this corner, we have Agua Viva by Clarice Lispector, the translation by Stefan Tobler. I read this in 2020. Really like this one, so that's that. And then the last one over here, we have another Kawabata. We have The Master of Go, translated from the Japanese by Edward G. Seidensticker. Okay, and then this shelf over here, we have quite a number. So I'll try to go through these relatively quickly. We have Love in the Time of Cholera by Marquez. Again, this is just the, this is so gorgeous. This is the illustrated edition, so it is so beautiful. This one is translated again from the Spanish by Edith Grossman. We have Perfume, The Story of a Murder by Patrick Suskind. This one is translated from German by John E. Woods. We have The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. This one's also translated from Japanese by Stephen Snyder. Haven't read this, but really looking forward to. This one is quite the recent addition to my shelves. This is Blindness by Saramago. This is about an epidemic of blindness that strikes a city and spares no one, and everyone's kind of confined to this hospital and they're blind, and it's just, oh my god, I think it's gonna be so, it's just gonna be incredible. This one's translated from the Portuguese by Giovanni Pontiero. I have my collection of Borges that I bought last year, and I cannot wait to read this. Oh my gosh. This is just absolutely beautiful. This is the collected fiction collection. This one's translated by Andrew Hurley. Yeah, I think once I get into this, like, Borges could just become one of my new favorite authors of like all time. Then we have my collection of Anne Carson, translated from the language that is Anne Carson. We have a couple of books by Elena Ferrante, translated from Italian. We have My Brilliant Friend and The Days of Abandonment. I believe these are both translated by Anne Goldstein, so those are those two. We have Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is so wonderful. Look at this cover. I love this. Right, way back there we have The Mystery of the Yellow Room by Gaston Leroux, which is also translated from French. And then, as you can see right here, we have my Murakami collection, all translated, I believe, by different people from Japanese. This is one of my favorites, After Dark. Oh my goodness. This one is translated by Jay Rubin. I think he does a lot of Murakami's translations, actually. So I read Norwegian Wood a while ago, but some other favorites are definitely The Wind-Up Bird Chronicle. Ugh, I'm just so excited to get to more of these. Right here, we have a book I read in February, which is Snow by Orhan Pamuk. This is such a good book. This is translated from the Turkish. This one is translated from the Turkish by Marine Freely. I love this. This was such an impressive read. This is about a guy who's been exiled for 12 years in Germany. His name is Ka, and eventually he returns to Turkey and he visits Istanbul, and then eventually he makes it to the border city of Kars, where a lot is going on. It was just absolutely crazy. Highly recommend this book. I'm so excited to read more from Mook. Next up, we have Pavilion for a Dead Princess by Park Min-gyu. This is from the Library of Korean Literature. I love these editions. I think they're so cool. This one's translated by Amber Hyun-jun Kim, and yeah, I'm very much excited to get into this one and hopefully collect more of these editions as well. I got to also check off reading Convenience Store Woman this year, which was so amazing, by Sayaka Murata. I highly recommend this book as well, if you ignore all of the taglines particularly though. This one's translated from the Japanese by Jinny Tapley Takamori. Another one up here from Japanese, we have Kitchen by Banana Yoshimoto. Haven't gotten around to that one yet, but I hope to. And we also have The Housekeeper and the Professor, another one by Yoko Ogawa. This one's also translated by Steven Snyder, and this one is about a professor who has an extremely short memory span of memory after he has a traumatic brain injury, and about the housekeeper and her son who come to work for him, and the way that they basically start to communicate through numbers and math, and it just sounds incredible. The last couple of translated books, we have Maidenhair, translated from the Russian by Marion Schwartz. And I think the last one we have on here is The Iliac Crest by Cristina Rivera Garza, translated by Sarah Booker. This just sounds like it's going to be absolutely incredible when I read it. It says it's a story about bodies disguised as a story about language, disguised as a story about night terrors. So just incredible. Alright, so moving on to this shelf, we only have a few. First up, we have The Shadow of the Wind, which I'm so excited to read. This one's translated by Lucia Graves. That is that one. We also have Blood of Elves by Andrzej Sapkowski. This one's translated from Polish by someone. This one's translated by Danusia Stoke. So I haven't read this yet, but recently one of my best friends like blitzed through the entire Witcher series, and it's so long. And she's just absolutely loving it, so I gotta get around to this soon. Over here we have The Three-Body Problem by Cixin Liu. I read this also this year. Really loved it. This one's translated from the Chinese. This was just so good. This was so good. It blew my mind. It's a sci-fi about kind of an alien invasion, but just so much more than that, and it was just incredible. Another brilliant sci-fi is Solaris by Stanislaw Lem. This one's translated by Joanna Kilmartin and Steve Cox from Polish. One of my favorite reads of 2020. This also just blew me away. Loved it. I have one young adult book translated into English from German, and that's The Castle in the Clouds. A Castle in the Clouds by Kirsten Gier. I loved this book so much. This is about a girl named Sophie Spark. I don't think her name's Sophie in the German though. I wish they would just leave the names alone. Like there's no reason to change them. But she was working as kind of a glorified babysitter up at this very remote hotel in the Swiss Alps, and all of a sudden things start to get very strange. There's a whole host of weird, maybe supernatural, maybe there's some sketchy plots going on. There's just a lot going on at this hotel. So charming, so quirky, loved it. I'll show you, I think, maybe the last one here from my philosophy shelf. We have the classic by Lao Tzu, Tao Te Ching, translated by R.B. Blackney. I haven't read this one yet, but this is the very short little meditation on Taoism and stuff like that. That is the last one without going into all of the shelves of classical studies. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this little tour. That was quite fun to see which ones like I have read and which ones I'm most excited to read next. I also currently have Frankenstein in Baghdad on the go by Ahmed Sadawi, and that is just incredible at the minute, so that's another one that's over there. But very soon I'll also be uploading a book haul from around the world, because that's something I didn't show you any of them. They're all sitting on my chair very sneakily, not in my bookshelves, but I'm really excited to film that video. So anyway, yeah, so I hope you enjoyed this little tour. If you guys have any recommendations, as always, I love translated fiction and fiction from around the world, classics from around the world. It's like all I want to read right now. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you so soon in my next video. Ciao.